Who wins under Waxman-Markey? I'm Tyler Suiters, and you're watching Clean Skies News. With me now is Frank Maisano with Bracewell Giuliani, a regular analyst with us here. Good to have you with us again, Frank.
Pleasure to be here.
Let's talk about the two sectors in which you know best, coal and wind, and we'll start with coal. Is it a winner or a huge loser under what we've seen?
Well, it's going to be tough for the industry to meet the targets and timetables that they're setting. It's going to be a real challenge. They've built in some opportunities for coal states to have allowance allocations, some opportunities, but nonetheless, I think the voting patterns in the House of Representatives really detail the challenge that coal faces. You had people, all senior Democrats from West Virginia, voting against the bill. That gives you a signal that it's probably not going to be a very good bill for the coal industry.
And that's even with Rick Boucher's workings behind the scene, who is from Southwest Virginia, very much coal territory.
Absolutely. Rick Boucher did a lot of work in the committee, worked very hard to get some favorable industry or favorable allocations, which were part of arranging for his support and enough of members of Ohio and places like that. The reality is, though, that members make these decisions on what they think is best for their constituents. West Virginia, North Dakota, places like that just didn't see real opportunities in the bill, whereas even with Boucher making his effort.
And the difference is just by nature of the Senate, with the geography there and how each state is represented, it seems like that leads to inherent problems with any passage that really hammers coal.
Absolutely. Everything in this bill that passed through the House, passed through the House Energy Committee, the regional challenges in the bill were evident. The refiner states were a big problem. Then Chairman Waxman arranged for them to work with them. Boucher, same thing we talked about before. As it came out of the committee, the next step was Colin Peterson and his interest in the farm states. So we saw those regional differences challenge the bill. Not enough to stop the bill, of course, because in the House the rules are a little bit easier for you to push it through. In the Senate, those regional differences are expanded. They blow up. They become a bigger challenge. And the simplest way to exemplify it is California and New York have 70 or so members, 75 or so members in the bill. North Dakota and South Dakota have 2. They're all equal in the Senate, 4 and 4. And with senior Democrats in those 2 states who don't really have serious re-election challenges voting against the bill because they didn't think it was in the interest of their constituents, I would suggest probably that those 4 votes in the Dakotas are going to be much tougher to get than the votes of Senator Boxer and Senator Feinstein and the New York senators.
Let's talk wind now, Frank. And at least publicly through rhetoric, no one's opposed to wind among the lawmakers. But is it still getting enough to really grow the industry where the administration wants to see it?
We're really seeing significant opportunities in the wind industry. There are chances all over the country to grow a sector that is expanding rapidly. The largest problem we have with the wind industry is the transmission infrastructure, and that carries a set of problems on its own that the wind industry itself can't solve. So transmission infrastructure is a big challenge. It's going to be a hindrance to the wind industry unless we solve it soon, and I think the Senate Energy Committee and many other people in Congress have seen that as a challenge. Secondly, we have regulatory siting, we have financial issues that are slowing projects down, good projects now, especially on land. The latest example is the state of North Carolina, who is starting to move through its legislature a bill that would restrict mountain wind turbine projects. And that is the craziest approach to taking to meeting the targets that they passed in their own Clean Smokestacks Act a couple years ago. So if you're going to have RPS's renewable portfolio standards requirements, if you're going to have emissions limits in states, you're going to have wind projects. So to do the 2 at the same time, banning wind projects in the mountains where there's some 800 plus megawatts of opportunities in the mountains of North Carolina, And again, you hear the typical response. The state senator who's supporting the project says, oh, I'm for wind turbines, but I want them to be offshore. I want them to be in the Midwest. He doesn't want them on his mountains. And that approach just isn't going to hold water.